Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. It is 4 p.m. ET, and we are so thrilled that you have found us here on Crime Time on A Mighty Blaze, where every Tuesday at 4 p.m. ET, we bring you an interview with another marvelous author. I am your host, Hank Phillippi Ryan, the USA Today bestselling author of 14 going on 15 novels of suspense, I'm so happy to say, and 16 and 17 are coming, but you'll hear about that at some point. My newest book is The House Guest, which went into a second printing after 6 days. Hooray. And my new book, thank you. And my new book, One Wrong Word, comes out in February, and more about that later as well. But today we have the absolute joy and complete honor of interviewing the fabulous May Cobb, who is in Texas, where it is like 9 million degrees in her hotel room, about her brand new, just hot off the presses book, A Likeable Woman, which you will love. It is sultry and it's beguiling and it is surprising, and I absolutely adored it. And May, you are on tour in Texas at a hotel. What's it like?
It's so hot, Hank, that I don't. As we were talking about before the show, I was 30 minutes away from my house driving to San Antonio, and then I realized I left my clothes at home, because you can't think in Texas when it's 100. And so it's just also why I look like I just had a day at the lake. You can't wear barely any clothes. The hair is a mess. So we're just going with it. And it's hot, but tour is fun. Yeah, I'm at my favorite hotel in San Antonio. It's this old house on the Riverwalk, and I love it here.
Oh, that's marvelous. Why are you in San Antonio?
Yeah, so I'm going to be on the local news in the morning, which I'm excited about, for an event at Barnes & Noble on Saturday that I'm promoting. Yeah.
What time at Barnes & Noble, and which Barnes & Noble? Might as well get our Texan audience there.
Yeah, it's the Barnes & Noble at La Cantera, the big flagship one. And it's this Saturday, the 22nd at 1 p.m.
That is incredibly exciting. Kathy Lanigan is here. Welcome, Kathy. Says, I've been looking forward to this all day. Kathy, have you read A Likeable Woman? If you haven't, we're giving away a copy. Well, I'm not. I'm keeping this one. May is giving away a copy of A Likeable Woman to one lucky commenter. So leave a question or a comment to win a copy of the book. Let me read you this thing about A Likeable Woman from none other than Oprah Daily, which says, bring on the backyard Chardonnay and rich, nasty housewives of East Texas. Gossipy, glamorous, and hair-raising. Mia says, Clued Up Reader says, so nice to see you together. And we are so happy that you are here today. Thank you. So what did you think when you saw that quote from Oprah Daily?
I was just ecstatic. So happy, Hank, because, you never know what sort of, media hits you're going to get or not get. So I was really, really thrilled. I felt like they really nailed it. Just happy.
Yeah. And the cover is irresistible. What did you think when you first saw this glistening, you can just almost feel the suntan lotion and the sun on it and her attitude. What did you think of when you saw this cover?
I was so happy. I'll hold mine up too. Yes. She has such an attitude about her already, and kind of an air of mystery too. And I like that it kind of goes with the rest of my books at Berkeley. This, kind of summertime sultry suspense look and feel. Although this book was, I think, a little more serious than my previous two. But yeah, I love the cover.
We should talk about that in a minute. I want to talk about how this book is a little more serious. And I felt that in the book as well. And I wondered if you had done that sort of on purpose, or did it come out that way? A.J. Finn says, one of the most original crime novelists at work today, and he knows whereof he speaks. And here is, besides Mia, is Pamela Fry-Priest is here, and Renee is here. Oh, look, everyone is here. Margie is here, and Mary Garrett. When I look over here, you all, Brenda Gaskell, I am looking at the comments, not looking away from you, but looking at the comments and welcoming you all here today. Hello, Renee. Nice to see you. So I have seen so many photos of you on this fabulous, glamorous, magical mystery tour with, I don't know, Ashley Winstead and Amy Gentry and all of every cool person on the planet. Talk a little bit about what that's like.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I mean, here in Texas, we do seem to have like a wealth of crime fiction writers. And so it seems to be kind of a growing genre here, which is exciting. So yeah, I got to hang out with those gals in Houston, and it was just amazing. We had margaritas, and I'm so glad you read that AJ Finn quote. I'm still stunned that he said that about me because I love his work so much. And it's been such a fun tour. It's so great, as you know, because you went on a whirlwind tour after after the pandemic, to get out there and to actually see people again. It's amazing.
Have you seen? I mean, I saw that Pauly Stewart was there too. That's marvelous. Are you seeing people turn out more, and people are more at ease at events in real life now?
Yeah, definitely. It was still kind of hit or miss last summer. I didn't do that many events for Summer Darlings, but for this one, I feel like more people are out. It's almost like the before times.
Well, it's interesting because Crime Time and A Mighty Blaze was started in the beginning of the pandemic, which is about 3 years ago now. Kind of weird to think of.
Yes.
By Jenna Blum and Caroline Levitt, to keep us all connected and to keep us all reading and to keep us all learning about new books and discovering new authors and sort of keeping connected with authors that we love as well. And I think it's fascinating that we have continued, like crazy, marvelously, even as the real world begins to open up for book lovers and book events as well in real life. So it's neat that that both of them can exist.
Yeah, and I mean, just thank God for y'all for doing this. It's amazing, and it was absolutely life-saving during the pandemic. But I think now we can talk to everyone all over because I can't travel everywhere. People can't travel to see me, so it's so great that we can still connect, with readers and each other.
Absolutely. I mean, Grace is in Canada and Renee is in Florida, and I see Robert is in San Antonio, and we can all gather for this, 40 minutes and chat about A Likeable Woman by May Cobb. Let me tell you a little bit about May if you don't know her. I love that you hold up the book. That's good. I get emails from people, seriously, who say, please have the author hold up the book more. And it's interesting because we're all sort of hesitant to do that. It feels like we're promoting like crazy. That's why I can hold up your book all I want. But you hold up your book all you want as well, because this is time to be proud of it. Let me tell you a little bit about our author today. Okay, keep it up. May Cobb is the award-winning author of The Hunting Wives, My Summer Darlings, and Big Woods. Like her previous novel, her most recent thriller, A Likeable Woman, is set in the lush, eerie, piney woods of East Texas, where she's originally from. The Hunting Wives was a Book of the Month Club selection, an Amazon editor's pick, and has been optioned for film and TV. Can't wait to hear about that. My Summer Darlings was also an Amazon editor's pick and was named the best summer thriller by The Today Show. And A Likeable Woman is one of Oprah Daly's best summer reads. Cobb earned her MA in Victorian Literature, so interesting, from San Francisco State University. Her essays and interviews have appeared in the Washington Post, The Rumpus, Good Housekeeping, and Texas Highways. And she currently lives in Austin with her family, but as she says, she is in San Antonio now, in a hotel room with a pillow that matches her gorgeous top. How did you manage that?
That was just divine intervention.
I guess so. Divine intervention. That's marvelous. Well, tell us a little bit about A Likeable Woman. You're going to have to do this on TV tomorrow, so you can practice on us.
Thank you, Hank. So, A Likeable Woman follows Kira, who's a 30-something woman, and Kira lives in Los Angeles. She fled her sort of like small East Texas town decades ago in the wake of her provocative mother's mysterious death. She was a teenager, and everyone insisted that her mother committed suicide, but Kira never believed that. She and her mom were best friends. They made art together. They were close. Her mother, Sadie, was about to have her first art showing. And then, she died under mysterious circumstances. So Kira never bought that, but her family and everyone else said, you're crazy. Your mom killed herself. So she hit the road. And she's beckoned back into the small town now because her frenemy is having her vow renewal party. And then her grandmother, who's sort of like this manipulative matriarchal figure, keeps texting her saying, I have something of your mother's, something she was keeping in secret. And I think you're right about the way she died. So it's A Likeable Woman features a book within a book. We get to hear from Sadie, the mother, because what she has left behind is an unpublished memoir called A Likeable Woman. And then it's Kira's storyline. And so they sort of, weave in and out of each other.
You don't sort of weave in and out of each other. They perfectly mesh in and out of each other. And it's a joy to read. Let's go back to something that you said at the beginning. So Kira has fled this little town and she doesn't want to ever see it again. But she's invited back to come to a frenemy's wedding. And she doesn't want to go. She absolutely does not want to go, not only to the wedding, but she doesn't want to go back to that town. And yet she's lured right away by her grandmother saying, come back and I'll tell you the thing that you want to know more than anything in the world. So it's what she absolutely does not want to do, offset by what she needs more than anything. Talk a little bit about that conflict and how that ignites the book.
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. Yeah, she absolutely doesn't want to go back. And really, one of the things that kind of pushes her over the edge to going back is not only she needs to find out what the grandmother has, because the grandmother won't tell her until she gets there because the grandmother's manipulative. But her childhood crush, Jack, is agreed to come back. And he's married and he's a doctor and whatever, but she still has feelings for him. And they were best friends growing up. And then, she always had a crush on him. So he said, well, I'm going to be there. And so she can't resist going back. But as soon as she steps onto Texas soil, she starts getting these ominous, threatening text messages. And someone doesn't want her looking into the past. And so it's almost like stepping into the lion's den. She doesn't want to go. She's not really friends with these women that are, that stayed in this small town. They're not really looking out for her, care about her. They kind of want to know, hey, is your life really glamorous in LA like you pretend on Instagram? Or is it, as we hope, like it's not so great? So it's really kind of...
Exactly. They don't want her to be happy because they're not happy. And it's so interesting, though, because it's so relatable, this whole book, because who of us doesn't have things in our past that we hate and love at the same time? We're curious about what happened to those people who were in high school with us, but we don't really want to see them or be with them. But first loves and family can draw you back. And that can be destructive. Kira shows up in East Texas, and you say from moment one, it's fraught because she meets Jack and his family at the airport. And that's quite a moment. Talk a little bit about that moment.
Yeah, she when she sees Jack come down the escalator, she's instantly attracted to him all over again. But then he's got this gorgeous wife. And Kira feels like, well, yeah, she's no match for her. And then Jack and his wife have a son who's autistic. He's having a meltdown. So there's a lot going on in that.
And we're losing you a little bit, but I think it'll come and go. I think it's because of the heat, and maybe sit a little closer to the screen if you possibly can. I'm not sure it'll matter. I don't know whether internet cares whether you're close to the screen, but the microphone may.
Yeah.
So they drive 2 hours together in this hotbed of a car with the love of her life and his gorgeous wife and this child who might explode at any moment. And they're getting closer and closer to Granny's house. Talk a little bit about that journey. And the setting of East Texas is so amazing. Talk a little bit about the lure of that and how that feels to someone who may never have been in East Texas. I see you're moving around. So let me just say that, I think of Texas as sort of flat and cactuses.
Yeah.
And East Texas isn't like that.
Yeah. And this is the sound better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job.
Cut the air conditioning off because it was distracting me. No, it's fine in here.
We're just going to watch you melt. We're just going to watch. Let us know when it gets too much and we'll have the sound come back on.
No, I've got my icy cold Topo Chico sparkling water, like the national drink of Texas. But yeah, so
anyway, East Texas,
where I'm from Longview, and it is so unlike what everyone thinks when they think of Texas. They think of either, like you said, the flat lands, dusty ranches, or the skyscrapers of Dallas, which Dallas is still super flat for the most part. But in East Texas, it's this very dense, lush, eerie pine forest. It's called the Pine Curtain, actually. And so, yeah, when you drive from Dallas 2 hours east, and we are about 30 miles from the Louisiana border. So it's kind of got a little of that True Blood vibe to it too. You will, when you're almost to my town, you will just, all of a sudden there's a huge forest that you're in. And it's very beautiful, but it is a little claustrophobic. You don't really see the big open sky like in the rest of the states. Growing up, I didn't, think anything about it, but, having lived in Austin forever, where it's like open skies, like Montana almost. And then when I go back there, I'm like, ooh, this is crazy. It's very noir. It's very like a Stephen King horror movie from the 80s.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, because it just gets darker and darker and darker, which is so perfect for Kira and Jack and his wife and the son driving along this road, getting closer to the place that she doesn't want to be. And she's promised herself she's just going to be there for this wedding weekend, and then she's going to get out. Yeah. And yet this road and the dark woods are drawing her closer to Granny's house, which is, again, like such a fairy tale. Talk a little bit about Granny's house and Granny.
I love that you said that the other day, because I hadn't thought of that, but I think it really is true. Granny's house is based on my best friend's step-grandmother's house, and she has this, it's almost like, it looks like a French manor type house on probably 10 acres. And it's just gorgeous. And I thought, okay, let me give Granny a nice house like that, because she is sort of the wealthy one in the family. She controls kind of everything. And so it's very, but some of it, once Kira goes inside, is shop worn and it's not up to date. Some of it's being remodeled. And you brought this up the other day, and I thought it was such an interesting thing to talk about. And I did that because I wanted to add a little bit of a tragic air to Granny's character, because even though she has all this money and power, no one comes to visit her. She's all alone at the end of her life, except for this wicked, housekeeper that lives with her.
It's so perfect, May. I mean, so here we have, now we're on the road with Kira, going to this wedding weekend, staying with her Granny, who's iffy and scary and manipulative, but who has lured her with the secret of her mother's death. And that moment when she gets out of the car with Jack and sees Granny Foster, the elegant, trimmed Granny Foster, who's judgmental from moment one. Talk a little bit about writing that scene. And that's such a critical, pivotal scene of the novel.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of describe Granny as moving towards she and Jack like a shark moving to water. And so she's already sizing Jack up. She wants to know why the wife's not getting out of the car. Like you said, she's just oozing judgment. She wishes that, Jack was with her granddaughter. She doesn't want her granddaughter to be single still, at 35. And she is. And so, yeah, the whole thing is just fraught. And Granny's flirting with Jack and kind of ignoring Kira. and it's just kind of funny. And I work with a freelance editor, and she really pushed me to go deeper in that scene and to make it tense. And I wanted it to feel almost like a point of no return for Kira, where, oh no, I'm really back. What have I done? Does Granny even have anything, or did she just lie to get me here, because none of us will have anything to do with her?
Yes, and she doesn't tell right away. Again, the famous May Cobb suspense that you're withholding secrets. Then Hanman says, I like Granny. You should read this and see what you think about that, because you will and you won't. And that is kind of the genius of May Cobb in A Likeable Woman, that everyone has two sides. Everyone has two sides. Everyone has a secret. So Granny is withholding this secret from Kira. Meanwhile, we meet Sadie, who is Kira's mother. Talk a little bit about their relationship and how we meet Sadie.
Yeah, so basically, there's a couple of early scenes where we have Sadie's voice, and we don't really know, well, I mean, I think we do figure out that it's Kira's mom, but really we meet her when Granny finally gives up the goods, and she gives Kira the unpublished manuscript that Sadie was writing. And it kind of reads almost like a letter to Kira across time from the grave. It's she was writing it, hoping to maybe get it published, maybe get some money, maybe able to escape her circumstances, move to New York like she always wanted to. But it really reads as almost like a manifesto to Kira about, please don't make the same mistakes I made. Don't settle. Don't go down this straight, narrow path that everyone thinks you should just because that's what society expects of women. But then it also, Kira was her confidant, whether or not that's a good thing to have a grown-up tell their child everything. She's able to write sort of what's going on, and it's the last summer she was alive. So I wanted to give it some structure, so it wasn't just like a rambling life story, so that it had its own sort of, built-in plot, because she starts to feel like she's being watched, and we don't know who's watching her or what's going on. So Kira has to read it while she's also trying to hang out at this like vow renewal party, so she has to read it in stolen moments. So that's Sadie's voice, and that was my favorite part of the book. Honestly, that was the first thing that came to me, was her voice in my head. And Sadie's a little bit based on my own mother. So
Let's talk about this, because you were telling me at one point that Sadie was the first voice you heard, which I think is so interesting, because I think it would be more predictable to think that you had Kira first. So the fact that you had Sadie first is fascinating. Talk a little bit about where she came from, do you think, and how she presented herself to you.
Yeah, I mean, so actually during the depths of the pandemic, my husband, son, and I had moved to California, and it didn't work out. So we were driving across the desert back home 5 months later. Crazy. And I was in my own kind of writing desert, and I was a little panicked about what is my next book going to be. And then I just heard this woman's voice, clear as a bell, as the saying goes. It's very, original. And
We get it.
And when we got to our stop for the night in New Mexico, I kept hearing it, so I just started to write down everything she was saying. And then a couple of months later, it became clear to me that she would be, the second narrator of the book, and that she would be dead and gone, and that it would have to be in some other sort of like medium. And she is based in part on my mom. My mom is still with us and everything, but my mom and I are best friends, super close growing up. But my mom, even though she raised 3 girls and then had to work like nights in the hospital to pay the bills, she always squeezed art into her life. So she, like Sadie, made boutiques, and she would have a station set up in our garage, and she, would paint, and just any way she could, she would try to live an artistic life with all these other pressures. on her. And then she's also very like, I mean, my mom is just, she's a character. So she is not into the whole like likability thing.
That's what I wondered, because Sadie is such a wonderful, compelling, relatable. We love her so much. Did you write her part all together, or did you write it as you went? And what was the part that she told you first? What did you have first? That's about 13 questions. What part did you have first of Sadie, and then how did you write her parts?
Yeah, no, those are great questions, Hank. So the first was really the first scene that we hear from her. That was her, which is she describing a dinner party that she had the night before, where this guy that she likes is flirting with her, and it makes her excited because, you know, she's in an abusive, verbally and physically abusive marriage, emotionally abusive marriage. So she's found someone who seems like a kindred spirit, and she's kind of describing that evening. And that kind of came to me first. And then I probably got like 4 scenes of hers that came to me before anything else. But then once I got Kira into place, I did kind of write them simultaneously, because that's kind of how I have to write. I have to write chronologically.
Because Kira has to know, you have to present what Kira needs to know or discover in the order that she needs to know and discover it. So you're sort of doing it at the same time. So you didn't write the whole thing and you didn't know the whole ending.
Right. Yes. I did know who the villain was, but I didn't know, I knew why, but I didn't really know a lot of the twists and turns.
Well, it's so exciting. It's so exciting to read, and so much fun to read, and so surprising. You know, one of the things about reading a lot of suspense novels like this, I mean, it's sort of a murder mystery packed in domestic suspense, packed in a family drama, packed in a psychological thriller, all together, is that we all, you know, your readers are smart, and we're always trying to figure out the ending and all the twists along the way. And it is just impossible. You all just don't even try. Just don't even try. You'll never know. You'll never get it. You'll never figure it out. You'll just gasp when you get closer to the end and throughout, as I did, because everybody has a secret. And that's such an engine of this novel. Talk about people's secrets and why. Does that matter to you?
Thank you, Hank. Yes, I feel like, I feel like we all have them. And I feel like even people that seem pure and great they're not. And I mean, it's one of the things I love, you know, in reading crime fiction in particular, is that you can kind of get into the mind of someone who might make some morally great choices or have some not so great thoughts. And I think that's like a really fun escape, and also just a study of the human psyche in a way that we can't sort of like, you know, do in real life. So yeah.
Exactly. And since we're in the point of view of Kira, we see the world the way she sees it, and we understand the world the way she understands it. And we tend to believe her because we love her. And so the decisions that she makes, we think, oh, I understand that. Oh, I know why she's thinking that. Oh, I know why she sees the world that way. She just may be wrong some of the time.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you saying that, because I tried with this novel, unlike my previous two, to have kind of more of a grounded character, to where even if readers don't necessarily maybe like her or agree with her, they can understand why she's doing certain things. Yeah.
I love that you called this book, or I'm holding it upside down now, also good, or that Sadie called her manuscript A Likeable Woman, because that's just a little dig at the universe, first of all, no question why, which I embrace fully. But why did you think it was important, wise, clever, fun, interesting, intriguing to name it A Likeable Woman?
Being completely honest, coming off the heels of the publication of The Hunting Wives, and while I had a lot of readers that, you know, loved that book, I had a kind of chorus of backlash that my female characters were so unlikable. And I just was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you a likable woman now. So, and I want to continue the conversation of likability as it pertains to, you know, females in fiction, because we don't ever talk about it with male characters.
Well, talk about this then. Let's open it right up because I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah, I get kinds of baffled that it's still a conversation in 2023, and that with and you know, in some books that for the in the Hunting Wives, for instance, the biggest beef wasn't the actual murder or the crime. It was the woman that stepped out on her perfectly good husband, as if a woman can't be messy and complicated and have her own issues. Like the husband has to be bad or there has to be a reason. We don't hold men to the same standard. So, yeah.
And it's interesting too because sometimes people are damaged or vulnerable or have their own reasons for doing what they're doing, and sometimes readers will say, why would you do that? I wouldn't do that. And I think, well, yeah, you're not her. This is and not one of the things, and they're making themselves be the character instead of understanding the character. And you hit it out of the ballpark in this. We completely understand Kira's decision-making process, the secrets that weigh on her, the desires that weigh on her, the need for her to be loved and to understand what happened to her mother. And to evolve her family relationships. Those things are so important. Talk about that and why that's such a theme in your novel as well. And then we will get to some questions, and then we will do the giveaway. Don't forget to leave a question or comment for May in the comments in the chat about this book, A Likeable Woman. People in the chat are saying, Robert is saying, good title. And Renee says, I agree. And Pamela Fry-Priest says, LOL. So that, and Mary Garrett says, likability doesn't come up with male political candidates either, or managers. Mary, very wise. Anyway, so talk a little bit about family relationships and how big a role those play. Then we'll do questions, then the giveaway.
Yeah, I mean, so Kira's sister Katie is back in this hometown. She never left, actually. And she sort of always sided with the dad. She got to be, when she was a teenager, embarrassed of Sadie, embarrassed of their mom. Kind of hard. But I think oftentimes in family, when there's, drama or tragedy, battle lines can be drawn, and certain people side with, like the dad, and the other sides with the mom. Well, Kira and Katie never got back together. So not only is she having to come back and hang out with these like obnoxious women, her sister is there, and they haven't really had a relationship since then. And her sister is kind of getting angrier and angrier that Kira is still hung up on the fact that she doesn't think her mom committed suicide. So there's a lot of strife and tension between those two, and it kind of erupts in the book.
So we have Kira and her sister, Kira and her grandmother, and Kira and her mother, who is mysteriously died. And it is a marvelous book, A Likeable Woman. You will absolutely love it, you all. After this is over, run, and go to your favorite bookstore and get a copy of A Likeable Woman. One of you will not need to do that. One of you will win a copy of this novel, and we'll spin the wheel of fun for that in a minute. But first, Margaret in the back room, let's have some questions. Vicki says, hey, Vicki, nice to see you today. What is your favorite part of the writing process?
Yeah, I love drafting. That's my favorite part. Yeah.
Can you come over? That is, I am doing my first pages now, and I just think, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. Give me some encouragement of why do you love the drafting process?
I love it because I hate the editing process so much. So that's, am I lacking?
Yeah, you're coming sort of in. Can you hear?
Okay.
Let me talk for a minute while you adjust. I don't know if it's anything we can do anything about.
Okay.
I want you just to come over and be with me because I love editing. I'll edit your books any day if you'll write mine. We could be a really great team. I think that would really be a cool thing. Anyway, Vicki, that's the answer to the writing process, the drafting of the book. Oh, Mighty Blaze, this is Margaret, says, could you imagine creating similar thriller stories in the Victorian era? What might that look like? Ooh.
That would be really cool, I think. I think I could, but I also, like, because that was the what I got my master's in, it kind of broke my brain. And so I was sort of left behind.
Left that behind. Yeah.
We're going to say forever because I still love those books.
Absolutely. And that would be sort of steampunk, maybe.
Yeah.
Kind of book. But we love you in Texas. We love you in A Likeable Woman. But that's a good idea, Margaret. That's a great idea. Who else has a question? Oh, Kathy, that's a great question. Is your writing process any different when writing a book within a book?
It was a little bit, but mainly in the editing process of where certain things should go. And I kind of liked it better than my usual process because I feel like once you get tired of writing one point of view, you have this other, and it's a completely different era. And I felt like it kept things fresh for me and moving along in these the pandemic times where it's like my brain felt like glue. So
Yes, absolutely. So, and it's fun to read because if you just joined us, we're talking about A Likeable Woman. It's fun to read because the rhythm of the chapters, the rhythm of the Sadie parts and the Kira parts, comes so beautifully just at the right time when you're when we think, oh, I need to find this out, then there it is, and it appears. So the metabolism of the book is really gorgeous. One last question, Margaret is saying, and maybe May will come back and answer some questions in the chat on Facebook if she has time, but this is launch week. But come back and look at the questions at some point because they are all fabulous. Sylvia, hey Sylvia, says, do you use a storyboard or any other visual planning layout?
Absolutely. So what I do, I'm very old school, so I just use good old-fashioned typing paper, and I'll draw like a 3-act structure of the book, and it's usually I don't know anything other than maybe the first plot point. And then as I go along, I like to map out like maybe 5 scenes ahead.
Oh.
So I'll sit there and I'll just draw like little squares and say, Kira returns to farm, whatever. And then if I have some like dialogue or, a passage that comes to me, I'll put it there too. And then that way, when I wake up and sit down to write, I don't feel like I'm just staring at a blank screen. I could never do that. I have to have at least like, what's that quote about? The novel and the headlights and the
you see you can only need to see it. You don't need to see the whole journey. You just need to see as far as your headlights show or something like that. Yeah. And it's either Somerset Maugham or E.L. Doctorow. It's always either one of those guys. Right? It's one of those. Do you save those for each book?
I do because I don't know why I never do anything with them, but I think I just want like proof of, maybe one day I'll forget how to do this. And so then I can pull out this. Okay.
Those are treasures. I mean, I'm glad that you keep them because I think those are a treasure, like brain map of your novel. And really, when you leave your papers to the university of someplace, they will definitely want those. Or when you get your PhD. Anyway, I'm yammering now. Mighty Blaze, Margaret says, I call those author artifacts. Author artifacts, says Margaret, and that is quite genius. And indeed they are. They absolutely are. So let's spin the wheel of fun and see who will win a copy of A Likeable Woman. We're going to spin the wheel. Look at that. Is that cute or what? That is really cute. And the winner is Lynn Hunman. That's great. That is marvelous. Lynn said that she would love Granny. So she is going to get to see firsthand whether she will actually love Granny, and that will be fun to see. So you'll get some instructions, Lynn, about how to get your book, and we will make sure that May's publisher gets you your novel. Thank you. Yay. May, thank you for this. You are so great, and this novel is so wonderful. Many continued happy events. Are you excited for the continuation of your tour?
I am, Hank. I really am, and I'm so grateful to you for doing this, and I'm so hoping one day for a real, like in real life event with you.
That would be so much fun. I will figure out if I can get to Texas for One Long Word, and we will hang out and have margaritas and talk about books.
I would love it.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you. Quickly, stay right there. I know you're just sweltering. You're such a trooper. Stay right there while I tell you all about next week. We're double booked, and you know that's a good thing. Next Tuesday at 3 p.m. ET, look who we have, Sarah DeVello. We love Sarah and her Broadway Butterfly. So everybody come and hear Sarah DeVello. She's usually the interviewer. So now we're going to turn the tables on her, and I will interview her about this marvelous historical fiction. And it is, look at that gorgeous cover. That is terrific. based on a true story, a true murder case. And then at 4 o'clock, this is 4 o'clock on Tuesday. We'll have Wednesdays at 1. It sounds sort of like Lewis Carroll in some sort of way. But anyway, 4 o'clock on Tuesday, we will have Wednesdays at 1 by Sandra Miller. And isn't this cover is also pretty great. It looks like an Edward Hopper painting to me.
That's really cool.
Yeah, really, really cool. So you all do not miss next week, 3 o'clock, Sarah DeVello, 4 o'clock, Sandra Miller. We will see you then. May, you're the best. Thank you. And all of you, remember, it is always safe inside a book. And we will see you next time.
Thank you, Hank.